more needs to be done to make sure families who suffer from crime are treated fairly. And as the state of Ohio's Joe Ingles reports, this group wants voters to take action to ensure equal rights for crime victims this fall.
Advocates for crime victims brought more than 2,000 petition signatures to the Ohio Attorney General's office earlier this week. This is the first step in putting a proposed constitutional amendment on Ohio's ballot this fall. Crime Victims Services Executive Director David Both says that case isn't unique.
There are violations of victims' rights in probably every county, every day, in some way or fashion. Either someone's not getting notified, or they're not being allowed into the courtroom, or they're not allowed to wear a memorial button when they are supposed to be allowed to, and not ordered restitution. There's just constant violations.
Liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all. That's the way things should be. But Ohio's judicial system is not balanced if you're a crime victim. Crime victims should be treated with respect and have their rights guaranteed. That's why we need Issue 1, Marsy's Law.
Marsy's Law gives crime victims equal rights, like the right to be notified of court proceedings and be heard during every step of the judicial process. Issue 1, Marsy's Law, restores the balance, so there's justice for all.
My abuser was out of jail and I had not been notified and showed up at a gas station where I was threatening me. I feel like Marsy's Law will give it some teeth to say the victim's rights should be as recognized as the defendant's rights. My abuser was someone that I knew, and I knew what they were capable of. And for me to say I need to be protected is something they should have listened to.
Being a survivor of sexual abuse that started at the time that I was 8, and over a 2-year time period, I was failed on multiple occasions. Once I was able to feel like I was in a safe space to come forward. I believe Marsy's Law is definitely trying to offer dignity and respect to victims.
I hear that so many times when we're out doing stories here at News Center 7 is the people who are on the kind of on the fringe or part of that case, they're wondering, they feel kind of lost.
Extremely, and I was so looking forward to finally meeting with the prosecutor. I was filled with a little hope that day, and to sit down and hear those words, you just think it's over, and I just wanted to go away, and I feel like that was part of maybe that was the point, trying to get me to go away.
As a victim of crime, how does that make you feel, knowing that under this issue, it would be in the Constitution, would have to be followed by all counties pretty much at the same rate, same level, same importance, and could not be undermined by future legislators if they came back later, didn't like it, or wanted to change it, people?
Crime victims need a voice. They need footing. They need to have a reference point. It's got to happen. It's time.
Kathy Harper Lee is the executive director of the Ohio Crime Victim Justice Center. She and crime victim Stacy Stevens, a teacher from Franklin County, say they want critics to understand why it's important to put these victims' rights into the Constitution.
I think those people have never had to have the experience of being a victim and how awful it is. They don't understand the process that you have to go through or the terrible pieces on top of the crime that was committed against my father, to then have the entire system feel like it's weighted against me, and then to protect the rights of the people who did this, and I feel like I'm just sort of voiceless. So this is really important that people understand victims don't have constitutional rights. They're not elevated to that level, and they really need to be.
At the polls, you'll be asked to consider a constitutional amendment called Marsy's Law. That's meant to protect victims of violence.
The idea behind Marsy's Law is victims and their families need more rights in the state of Ohio.
Well, crime victims and their families would have the right to notification of all proceedings and to be treated equally and heard during the entire legal process. Victims could be involved in plea deals and would be entitled to financial restitution.
Ask people on the streets of Cincinnati about Marsy's Law after seeing commercials like this.
Justice for all. That's the way things should be.
And you'll find a common verdict on the amendment.
All victims for sure, should have all the rights that's made possible to them.
By voting for it, we're protecting innocent people.
When you tell a judge, when you tell a prosecutor, when you tell everybody involved in the criminal justice system, these are basic rights that are part of the Constitution, people will take it very, very seriously.
Today we make history as we submit more than 560,000 signatures to the Secretary of State's office to put Marsy's Law on the ballot on November 7th.
I am grateful for all the support we've received. More than 500,000 Ohioans have signed their names to ensure that all voters will have the opportunities to pass Marsy's Law in November and give crime victims guaranteed constitutional rights equal to the accused and the convicted.
Issue 1, the Victims' Rights Law, is heading to an overwhelming victory. Let's check out the numbers right now. We'll start with Issue 1, also known as Marsy's Law. It's aimed at giving more protection to victims of crime and their families.
Now to Issue 1, which found overwhelming support tonight.
Issue 1, dealing with victims' rights, passed handily by voters.
These are the results supporters of Marsy's Law had hoped for.
November 7th, 2017. This will forever be known as the day that Ohio crime victims became something more than just a piece of evidence. For it's on this day that Ohio crime victims have been both enabled and elevated. There's an old saying in presidential politics, as Ohio goes, so goes the nation. So tonight we celebrate a huge victory here in the Buckeye State. The real goal is to see Marsy's Law become the 28th Amendment of the United States Constitution. And I think that this is a huge milestone along that way. So I thank you all.